Hello. I had the opportunity to play with some of the fabulous new products from the Fall 2020 release from Fawn, and I just had to share a card with you using the clever new shutter card die. This has to be one of the simplest but most impactful fun ways to create an interactive card, and I just love it. So let's get started. First, I'm creating the background for the inside of my card. I'm using a panel of Strathmore Bristol cardstock cut slightly larger than the shutter card die, and I also have a second panel of Strathmore Bristol cardstock that's cut slightly larger than the center panel of the shutter card. I line up the hillside stencil along the center of the larger Bristol panel and tape it in place using the etched lines on the back of the stencil as my guide. Next, I blend scattered straw, dried marigold, wild honey, and crackling campfire distress oxide ink across the panel. I avoid blending scattered straw ink along the edge of the paper because I'll be moving the stencil to complete the sky. This prevents you from getting any harsh lines in your stenciling. Once I'm happy with the main part of the panel, I carefully shift the stencils to the sides to finish blending. Then I clean off the stencil and tape the opposite side to the panel so that I can blend black soot distress oxide ink on the bottom of the panel for my ground. I dry the panel with my heat gun and then splatter it with water and blot off the excess. Once the panel is dry, I die cut it with the main shutter card die. Then I line up the smaller panel in the center of the large panel, tape my stencil in place, making sure to line up the hill, and repeat the blending process. This step takes a little extra time, but I like making sure the scene is continuous as much as possible. Once I'm done blending, I place the smaller panel over the larger panel, lining up the stenciled hills. Then I line up the shutter card die over the large panel, tape it in place on the smaller panel, and run it through my die cutting machine. Now it's time to color. I've stamped a bunch of images from Spooky Village and Fox costume before and afters with VersaFine and heat embossed them with clear embossing powder. I color them with Copic markers and then die cut them with a coordinating die. I've sped up the coloring process to shorten the video, but you can skip ahead to get back to the card assembly if you'd like. And now it's time to start assembling the card. First, I take the center blended panel and trim off the sides of the panel using the tabs on the top and bottom as guides. If you have the shutter add-on set, you'll have the cute stitched panel you can die cut, but if not, you can just cut down this panel using those tabs to guide you. After I cut off the sides of the panel, I cut off the top and bottom tabs as well. Next, I take the little flag guide marker and the stitched circle die. I line the flag up along the bottom edge of the panel, making sure it's butted up to the side and bottom of the panel, and then use light tack tape to temporarily adhere it in place. The flag has a little curved line that perfectly fits the circle to line up the die in precisely the right place. I line up the circle and then temporarily adhere it in place. Next, I remove the flag die and then run the panel through my die cutting machine to cut the window for my shutters. Then I fold the main shutter card panel along the side score lines to create the door openings for the card. I run a bone folder along the folded edge to give it a good crease. I've die cut the main shutter card panel from a piece of black cardstock and will trim off the side panels of that piece to create black door panels for the front of my card. I also fold the top and bottom tabs of the main shutter card panel along the score lines and crease them with my bone folder. Next, I fold and crease the score lines on the shutters that I've die cut twice from black cardstock. Then I add adhesive to the tabs on the shutters. The main shutter card panel has score lines etched on the panel that show you exactly where to place the shutters. I remove the adhesive backing, line up the shutters on the inside of the panel, and then simply fold the side door down to adhere the shutter in place. I repeat that on the other side. Next, I adjust the shutters so the top and bottom tabs alternate which side is on top. This just allows it to fold closed nicely. You'll see that it doesn't quite close correctly if one side is on top on both tabs. Before adhering my center panel to the shutter card base, I stamp the sentiment from Fox Costume Before and Afters with Versamark and heat emboss it with white embossing powder. I want to make sure that my white card base doesn't peek through all of the black elements of my card, so I carefully add a piece of low-tack tape to the back of my tabs and then color them with a black Copic marker. I color lightly so that the ink doesn't show on the other side, but this way you won't see any of the white cardstock. Then I fold in the tabs of the shutter card base and add adhesive. I remove the adhesive backing on the top tab and adhere the center panel. Then I make sure the shutters are aligned correctly, remove the adhesive backing from the bottom tab, and fold the center panel down to adhere it to the bottom tab. Now when I open the doors, it opens the shutters as well. Next, I start to build my scene by adding in my colored images. I add the adorable fox in his skeleton costume behind the shutters, and then add the village around him. I also die cut the rest of the sentiment from Finley's ABCs and adhere it above the shutter window. At this point, I decided I wanted to add a little more to the scene, so I stamped a few more images from Fox's costume before and afters, colored them with Copic markers, and die cut them with the coordinating dies. Then I die cut a circle for the moon and blended it with antique linen and scattered straw distress oxide ink to create some shading and texture. I also splattered it with water to add some lighter spots. Then I die cut it with the main shutter card die so that it would add the scoreline. I folded the moon along the scoreline, creased it with my bone folder, and then added adhesive before adhering it in the top right corner. Then I added my witchy little bird to the left side to balance the scene a bit. Next, it was time to decorate the front of the card. As I mentioned earlier, I have the black panels that will fit onto the doors of the card. Then I used the smaller panel die included in the set to die cut the fall fling pattern paper. I die cut the two panels and then adhere them to the black panels. Again, to make sure no white of the card base shows through, I run a black marker along the edges of the white card base and then adhere the black panels. This just gives your card a nice finished look. Then I have the two belly band pieces die cut from black cardstock. I fold them along the middle score line and then crease them with my bone folder. I adhere them together and then use a powder tool to deactivate a little adhesive peeking through on the other side. I fold the belly band around the card base and then adhere it together. I give it a tiny bit of wiggle room just to make it easier to remove. Finally, I add my last two images from Spooky Village to the front of the belly band to give you a little hint of what's inside. And that's my finished Halloween card. A little spooky, but mostly sweet. I know the card seems like it has a lot of steps, but really the shutter card is one of the easiest interactive cards I've ever created, and the set was really cleverly designed to make it as easy as possible to assemble. I think once the set is in your hands, you'll really be able to see how simple it is. You can find the full release over at Fawn now, and it's spectacular. I can't wait to show you more really soon. You can find more details and all of the products I used in the YouTube description below or over on my blog. If you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of my future videos. Thanks so much for watching, have a fantastic day, and happy crafting. Bye!